Miles Davis was trash at bebop.
Jesus, I don't know, man.
Now, and then he quantified it by saying, now when he started doing like the cooler stuff and slowing down a little bit,
Okay.
like he was untouchable. Like nobody was close.
Yeah.
But when he was trying to do all of this crazy, technically fast. How are you doing out there, TV world? That's O.J. Simpson was coming back. He was saying that. Hi, Twitter world. Hot takes from the top, baby. Let's go. Welcome to the Music and Them podcast.
You
we
know
are
what it
out
is.
here.
Straight up.
Legendarius, Sam God, and we got Damani Rhodes over here. We need to get you a handle, bro.
You know what? I just be asking them to follow the DrumTrax. They ain't even got to follow me. But if you want to, I'll throw it in the description. Why not?
Nice segue.
You know what I'm saying?
Download the DrumTrax app right now. Whether or not you are a seasoned drummer or a beginning drummer, whether or not you even want to become better, you could
Even
just
if you're
download.
not a drummer, just download it.
Just download it.
Just sign up for drum lessons. It doesn't matter if you play piano. Just sign up for drum lessons.
Just sign up for it. It'll inform your playing.
Did we? No, we did. We did do a podcast on if drummers should learn how to play another instrument.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should piano players learn how to play another? Should
Definitely.
saxophone players
Straight up.
every other player that plays every other instrument but the drums learn how to play? You know what? Sign up. Let's go.
Everybody needs to learn to play the drums.
Sign up. It doesn't matter what you play. You're playing drums now. Let's go.
And today's a perfect thing for you because today we're going to talk about. Dagnabbit, what are we talking about?
Well, first of all, we're going to talk
Musicianship.
about how there's links in the description. Go ahead, bro.
Links in the description.
Go ahead.
Download musicianship versus dang, I forgot how we phrased it
Creativity.
now. Creativity.
The difference between almost like the difference between just being a player and being a writer. The difference between being someone who is playing what someone else wrote and being the creator of a thing yourself. Creativity versus just playing, musicianship.
And what's the importance of each role?
Yeah.
And are they separate?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, listen, I have my opinions on this, but I think I want to start with Sam today because Darius, he doesn't seem like he has anything that he's really thinking about, but I'm sure he's gonna have a hot take that's gonna blow our minds.
He's trying to think of a controversial statement right now to make this go viral. He's working on it.
Let's go.
I'll say right off the top that I think my favorite musicians tend to be people that also write music. You know?
Yeah.
Because I think it usually their playing is more creative. Because even if you're just playing most of the time, even if mainly people, like a lot of people, like they might mainly just be kind of a sideman or whatever, and they're just a player, but they still go home and write stuff on their own time, even if that's not their main project or whatever. And I just think that, you know, that makes your, because you can be a great musician and have all this technical skill and stuff like that, but a lot of people are just kind of mimicking or just playing a bunch of like riffs and licks that have been played a million times, and it sounds great, you know, and it's pleasing to the ear, and a lot of times it's amazing because they have amazing chops and stuff like that. But you know, it's not as soulful necessarily, or it doesn't move me, you know.
Right.
So creativity, I guess, is just really important to me.
Right.
No matter what your role is, or what you're doing, or what your gig is.
I mean, and I would, you know, because you did mention just now, like, you know, sometimes people play things that are really technically sound, or they, you know, it sounds good, it sounds advanced, but it doesn't move you. But sometimes it's all good. Sometimes everything that's creative, there's some creative stuff that I've heard. I was like, that was different, but it didn't move me. And there was some stuff that was not as, well, we wouldn't deem it as creative. They're just playing something that someone else created that does move you or sound or feel very good. But I agree with you, though, more than I disagree with you. I actually don't really disagree with you at all. I agree wholeheartedly that I tend to favor those who create and compose as well. There's some phenomenal players that don't do that. And I've heard some phenomenal players create some stuff that just was not moving at all. But
just because it's creative, I mean, doesn't mean it's good or something like that.
And that is, and you know what? In order to be a creator, you have to live with that fact and understand.
And a lot of it's an opinion too. Obviously,
absolutely.
That's the thing, is it the technical skills? You can look at someone playing 30-second notes and playing some crazy stuff, and you can say, okay, that is, you know, good technically.
Sure.
But with the creative stuff, that's more of an opinion anyway. You know, it's
Right.
like, what are you into?
And because music is so subjective, it's like just because they're 30-second notes, is it good?
Right. That's a good
Or is it
question.
just fast?
Yeah,
You know?
that's why I said it's good technically. It's that was clean.
Right,
know?
you definitely performed
You
that well.
executed.
Absolutely. I get what you're saying now. So I look at it like that. I look at it in terms of like I would rather take someone who could only play a few rudiments, but was so creative with those few rudiments that it was something new and it moved you, versus someone who could play 1,000 notes a measure and it doesn't move you. Now, there are ways you can play very fast and it still be moving. I've seen that happen as well. I actually like drummers who play fast. But sometimes, it can just be like, okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just because someone's playing slower though, and it's something that more people can understand, also doesn't mean that was great.
Right.
But it could be something that is very, very creative and connecting, to me as a human on a human level, where I'm just like, man, I don't know why I feel that so deeply, what I just experienced musically there. And so I think that creativity and the ability to play technically and to have facility over the instrument are two different things. They're not the same thing whatsoever. I think that you can be creative and not have the technical skills to get around the instrument like you want to, but you can develop your technical skills to get around the instrument so that you can actually you can go further with your creativity. I also believe you can have all the technical facility around your instrument in the world and just fall flat creatively. And there's nothing creative about what you're doing. There's nothing unique about what you're doing. There's nothing moving about what you're doing. There's nothing to it. It's just a bunch of... I've literally been to a concert before where I was watching a jazz pianist play, and the guy's phenomenal. Like he can play, but I felt nothing the whole show. I was like, whoa, this is the first time I've actually seen somebody play a bunch of things that I wish I could play right now, that I can't even play right now. But the way that they're doing this,
nothing. Yeah.
It's like a series of parlor tricks or something like that.
Yeah, it just wasn't. But then I've also heard things where phenomenal musicians are playing a bunch of phenomenal things and it is moving. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want the viewers who are watching or anybody to start to correlate, oh, if it's fast, if it's flashy, if it's a lot of notes, then it's not going to be moving. No. That's not the case. It's just that maybe it was just that night for that musician, right? But what I'm saying is that just because you are technically sound doesn't mean you're going to be creative and the stuff that you make is going to sound great. It doesn't mean that you're going to have, amazing things come from what you're doing. But I would say you're more likely to, though, than a person who is not technically sound.
You're more likely to play faster?
You're more likely to, you have a better opportunity in my mind to be creative if you actually have facility around your instrument than not.
Yeah.
So it's like a give and take.
You have more vocabulary.
So you should separate these two and not correlate them, in my opinion. Becoming technically proficient on your instrument is something you should, something was flying in the air, but becoming technically proficient on your instrument is something you should strive for. Absolutely.
All right,
but being
here's the hot
creative is
take of
different.
today.
Uh-oh, here we go.
And it's not even my hot take, but I remember hearing somebody say it. Miles Davis was trash at bebop.
Jesus, I don't know, man.
Now, and then he quantified it by saying, now, when he started doing like the cooler stuff and slowing down a little bit,
Okay.
like he was untouchable. Like nobody was close.
Yeah.
But when he was trying to do all of this crazy, technically fast stuff, it didn't work.
I mean, he even said stuff like that. He was like, I'm not dizzy.
He wasn't dizzy.
But then nobody's Miles.
But
like
he had the
even the
soul
tone.
factor. Yeah.
All the things in that realm. So
when you listen to one of the main songs that everybody knows by Miles Davis is "So What," right?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was just thinking of, his solo and "So What."
It was the coolest
ever.
It made you feel like, I want to be like that guy. Like you want to walk in a room and make people feel like that.
Yeah.
But then you listen to like John Coltrane, and I think it was John Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley. I think it was those two. They were on Autumn Leaves, I think.
No, Autumn Leaves, Cannonball, and Miles.
Yeah.
Autumn Leaves. it's the best depiction of somebody playing with chops and somebody playing with not chops.
Yeah.
Cannonball went in, and both of them were.
Cannonball solo was fire though. We're not gonna sit here and play Cannonball though.
No.
That solo was ridiculous.
They were equally great. Like,
Yes.
It was like he brought the chops up here, and it was like, my God. And then Miles came in and was like, okay, now we're gonna slow this down and bring it to this side over here.
Right. It's
and
like
it was just like that song is perfect.
It's like a basketball team.
Perfect.
It's like a basketball team that is playing, and one team is trying to play fast paced, but the other team is not allowing them to change their game.
Yeah.
And they still play at their pace because they're best at their pace. That's what it felt like Miles was doing on that. But yeah, I agree. Miles' solo on there his solos and stuff were just super cool.
Legendary.
Yes. And so while someone might, say that Miles was trash at bebop, I just, man, I don't know if I would say Miles was trash at anything, but, Miles was also a big proponent of creativity though. I remember reading in his biography that like in the 70s, he went to a club to hear music, and they were playing bebop in there and playing all the licks that he heard Bird and Dizzy and everybody do back in the 40s. And it made him sick. Like, you guys are still on this?
Right.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing? And I was reading the book like, yes.
I'm still
on
doing that now.
Yes, I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, what? What do you mean? Are we
Right.
still on this? Like, bro, you don't realize that nobody, like the vast majority of us haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
And
he still want to learn how to do this, man.
And
he's like, I'm moved on from that.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the 40s when they were doing that, and it's the 70s now, and he's feeling away, or he's moved on. But that's one thing I always did appreciate about Miles. No matter what he did, he was trying to push forward, and that doesn't mean that everything he tried to do creatively was good, because some of the stuff in the 80s that I heard wasn't my favorite. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he was not afraid to lean on the creative side. I watched an interview with Herbie Hancock. He was talking about when he was playing with Miles, and Miles would tell him not to play the butter notes. And the butter notes, what he's talking about is when you're playing a chord progression, to not play like the chord tones that make the quality of the chord, like the third, the seventh, that type of thing. Don't play those notes when you're doing your solo. Like, he wanted you to be on the edge of your creative ability at all times type of vibe. Mm-hmm. And it made for wild performances and, different things that, you talked about how it stretched them to be more than they thought they could be. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, the creative thing is where it's at, further than, more. It's a different thing. There's musical proficiency, and then there's creativity. But then how does one develop their creativity? Because it's pretty straightforward how you develop your technical abilities on the instrument, right? If you're a piano player, you need to know some hand exercises, things that help you get your dexterity up. There's songs and things that you learn that help with that as well. On the drums, yes, you want to practice rudiments, so you actually have some facility around different drum patterns and all of these different things. But when it comes to creativity, is there a way to help develop it?
I'll say right now is living your life. Like having unique experiences outside of just playing music informs your playing.
Sure, I agree.
Creativity.
I agree.
What are we writing songs about?
Right.
We're not writing songs about writing songs or busting chops.
Right.
Like, we're writing songs about our life experiences, even if it's an instrumental. Mm-hmm. Like when you hear someone playing, like that was another thing Miles said. He said it's 10% like the notes you're playing, and it's 90% the attitude
you're playing
of
the
guy that's playing the notes, or girl. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that just comes from the essence of who you are and the experiences you've had in life. Usually the musicians that I like are people that have pushed some limits in their life and been through some interesting stuff. Yeah. Besides just what they've done musically.
Right.
And that informs the music.
Right.
Also, living your life and listening to things outside of your general purview.
Yeah.
As a musician, like, okay, I was listening to daggone Casey Musgraves the other day, and I was like, oh, wait, that was kind of hard. And listening to pop singers, like I got a whole list of junk that I listen to like that. And, even one of my favorite artists is James Taylor. So, we out here. But
Yeah, that's going to get you outside of whatever box you're in.
Yeah, listening
what
to
what you
things.
listen to influences you heavily. So you have to listen to different things. That's number one, so that you have it in you, because it's not going to come out if you haven't deposited anything in. And so you definitely want to listen. I do agree though with the living life situation and letting your experiences and but most people, even people who write songs, right? Like lyrics, they may write about experiences, but they write about those experiences within certain sounds, within certain genres, within certain types of styles that they're used to, that they hear a lot, that they like. I would say find some styles that you like. Listen to those things, dive deep into the stuff that you're interested in, but also listen to some other things as well, to see what you can pull from. And if you listen to the history or learn a little bit about the history of the thing that you like, it may inspire you as well. These aren't things that are going to all of a sudden just make you creative out of nowhere, but the more you have in you, the more that can come out. And then also the more inspiration you'll have when you start doing the things like learning the history or diving into other influences. Because chances are, if you listen to the influences or ask the artists that you love who their influences are, that those influences may not be in the same genre all the time of that what that artist is doing.
Exactly.
Straight
you
up.
might hear something completely. Your favorite jazz player might be like, name a gospel artist,
right?
Or a rock and roll band or something,
right?
Like
or your rock and roll guy might name a funk drummer that they're heavily influenced by,
right?
And so all of that matters, because music is music. And although we play different styles, man, we pull from each other.
Listen to a lot of music. Listen to
Listen to as much as you can.
Spend time, and you can exercise your creative muscle too. Like if you practice songwriting, like you practice other things. Like it doesn't always have to be like, oh, I just had this amazing epiphany and I had to run and go write a song. That's great. That happens.
Yep.
And follow that, but also sit down every day and just try and come up with a chord progression or a
drum groove, a pattern.
Come up with a groove a day, even if you don't feel like it, because the more you do it, the more it's going to come more naturally.
Yes,
exercise.
That's great advice, because I feel like a lot of times musicians that are learning, they feel the need to make sure they're doing it right, and so because of that, they're only playing things that they're told to play, because they want to make sure that they're checking off the box of doing it right. But experimentation in your practice is the number one necessary component that helps to lead to experimenting, or to helps lead to creativity. Because at the end of the day, there's really no rules to the music thing. Like the art, it's art. Music is art. You're an artist. You're creating something. And it may not come out great or right the first time you're doing it, but you keep letting that thing happen and you keep experimenting with different ideas. And even if it's not something that's traditionally right, you may not use it in every situation. You have to be smart still and find out where to put stuff, but that doesn't mean on your own time you don't also add creativity or experimentation into your practice time. And that's what the tracks are for, really, honestly. There's a lot of things that you could do with the tracks on the app. I might as well just segue and throw that in there, because it literally, I'm being serious though, because it's like, we have a ton of tracks that you can actually learn songs and you can play along to and just try to practice being very musically appropriate and making good decisions in the context. But then we also have loops that don't really change at all. And the purpose of those is so that you can actually sit down and experiment with different grooves. Because believe it or not, your drum groove, the way you play a drum groove over a certain type of piece of music will change how it sounds if you change the groove. And you can work out different ideas with different types of groove patterns and literally change how these things sound. You just can't be afraid to do that, because you can't be afraid to be wrong.
Be wrong.
Because you can't be wrong in art. Now, if you get hired to play a gig, I want you to understand that's different. You're literally being hired to play a job, to do a job, and you're being hired to do a certain thing. That's not being, heavily in the creative side.
You can be wrong.
You can be wrong in that, because you've been hired to do a certain thing, so you have to do that. But I'm talking about in your creative time when you're actually experimenting. So.
If you're experimenting, you can be wrong. I'm sorry, people.
You're going to come up with an idea that you think is really fire, and Darius is just going to walk in the room and just be like, "No."
Well, I would say
ain't it.
You cannot like it. It could be bad.
Yeah.
What you come up with, but I would say that it's not a loss; it's a learning situation.
There are a range of decisions that are informed.
Yeah.
And there are a range of decisions that are trash. Okay.
It depends on the
where the
context,
opinion-
though. That's what I would say.
That's where the opinion part comes in. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can think something's great, and everyone else can tell you it's trash,
It's
and you can just be like, "Well,
and
in
to
my
you,
world,
you're,
it's great." I
You're
don't
right,
care.
and everybody else, you're wrong. That's just what it is.
No,
that's
but
the
no,
subjectiveness of
it's
music.
just
Listen,
about growing, man.
You just said Miles Davis was trash at bebop, but I'm sure somebody's going to disagree with that.
That wasn't my
Let's hear it in
opinion,
the
though.
comments.
It was just my
He
take.
said you're not going to pin me with that.
I don't mind having a hot take, but that one was not mine.
I'm not saying that was your opinion. I'm just saying you
someone
said
else
it.
said it. Allegedly.
I'm just repeating what someone
Somebody
said.
else said it. His name was Dagnabbit. What was his name? No.
Legendary. No, I'm like-
No, but yeah, the musicianship, man, you gotta. I don't know. Creativity is lit. I think your musicianship leads to your creativity. Not everybody is creative though.
That's true.
Like I think that some people, even it, like you were talking about working out that muscle. I feel like there are some people that might just not have it.
Well, you know what? Well,
And should they be playing music? That's the question.
Well, also, but on top of that, being creative, it just, to me, it just makes you better.
Yes.
Because even if you are playing all the right things and you know all the licks, you know all the R&B licks. You've been listening to Jarius all your life. Like, you know all of the R&B licks. You can play them. You know where they're placed. If somebody just knows how to play an instrument, they can be creative and they can play those licks, but they can also, here's this note that I heard in some Debussy changes that just don't, and the whole room is like, ooh. Like,
Yeah, even if.
but
you know half of what
that's being creative though. That's like
That's what I'm
taking
saying.
that's
what I was about to
creativity
say.
always- Creativity wins every time, but it also just influences further. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It influences further skill to an extent. In the context of, even in a certain genre, you can be a genre bender if you're listening to different things and you can be creative.
Even
Right.
if you're like a sideman, someone's gonna be like, come up with a part for this song
You were
at
talking
some
about that a
point.
couple
And
weeks
if you
ago,
can't
yeah.
if you can't come up with a unique, interesting drum groove to a song,
Right. And
they're not always going to be telling you this is the exact groove. This is when you hit the hi-hat, and this is
Right.
You have to make those decisions.
this is the feel. Make something happen, and you
Even
pull
if you're
from
just using like stock licks, you have
Yep.
to know how to combine them.
yes, and you come up and you use. That's where you start to call on the things that you've practiced. Number one, of course, and then also call on the things that you've listened to and that you're influenced by, and hopefully you have developed enough skills so that you can actually replicate those things that you're calling upon. And there's nothing wrong with that. Creativity doesn't start from nothing. We're all influenced by something.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. So at the end of the day, if I'm playing a gig with you, Sam, and you're playing the bass, and you're like, hey, give me a drum groove, and I'll improvise something over the drum groove. I'm not gonna sit there and ask you, hey, do you want it in 4/4? Do you want it in 6/8? Do you want, like, how many, should I play eighth notes on the hi-hat or should I play 16th notes? Like, I'm not going to ask you that.
Right.
I'm going to start playing a groove, and it may start off with a single note that leads to the whatever I'm going to do, and that groove may transform into something, and then we fall into a thing that actually works, right? Like, it may not start off, but you start. And now you let the one thing influence the next thing, and it turns into something. But at the end of the day, you got to have influences. You got to have some technical knowledge and skills to be able to do the thing, and then you go from there. But we're all pulling in and combining. Like, people who create anything, like an airplane, was not made out of elements that were not already on the earth. Like, it was all already here.
Right.
We just figured out how to combine
And
what was
a
there.
development to get to that. There
Right.
was an evolution.
An
Someone
evolution.
didn't just get up and I'm gonna slap an airplane together.
Exactly.
Like, at first they were like, well, let's make a little, like, some wings that we can, like, jump off this cliff and kind of glide down for a minute, and then they died. Someone else was like, let's build on that knowledge.
Let's go forward.
And it's crazy because, like, no one ever thought that we would have instruments that tell us what the weather's going to be or how fast, but like everything that tells us that was here the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything that has been created, it has been created by things that were already here.
Yes.
And so the creativity that you'll have as a musician is going to come from the things that you already have inside you. It's just how you combine, how you manipulate, how you interpret what you have ingested. And so I think that's really it, man, for me.
Yeah. Be creative, people.
Yeah, because even if you're just like a sideman, or not just a sideman to like demean that or something, but like if you're like a sideman and you're just trying to be a gigging musician, if someone else plays more creatively than you and has a voice, like they might get picked over you for the gig, because when someone tells them, I got these chords, I don't really know what the groove is yet though, just play me something about at this tempo.
Right.
Someone that has a voice like figured out and knows
knows who they are on the instrument.
Yeah, they're gonna play something that's gonna make people just feel it more.
You know what?
It's gonna be like,
And when you say that, bro, it literally. I think I've said this before. Maybe not in a. Maybe I have in a video, but I've said this. It's the idea that, to me, it's almost part of a prerequisite for me, for a legendary musician or a legendary drummer, that they have their own sound. Like, if we really think about all the legends that we talk about, especially in drums, whether it is Buddy Rich or whether it is Elvin Jones or Billy Cobham or Tony Williams or whoever going forward, all of these musicians, they all play the same instrument, they all play the same patterns, they all use the same rudiments, but they don't sound the same.
yeah,
They all have their own voice.
Yeah.
When you hear Steve Gadd play a groove, it's going to be different than when you hear Vinny Colaiuta play a groove. It's going to be different when you hear Dennis Chambers play versus whoever else. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel like that's the epitome, though. That's the top. Once you become technically proficient and then you actually find out who you are and you can give your perspective from the instrument. And all of these guys got called because they were them. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's plenty of guys who could play the groove. There's plenty of guys, but who's gonna do it like this? Who's gonna do it from this perspective? Right. There's only one Dennis. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the creative aspect, really.
And so,
at the end of the day,
that's where it comes from. That's what it boils down to. We ain't gonna hold y'all. We gonna let y'all.
It's been real.
We gonna let y'all get up out of here.
Did we go long on this one? We lit. We all here.
I don't know.
It's the Music and Them podcast. Here's what happened. You downloaded the DrumTrax app, and now you're about to go and shed. Okay.
So inspired from this convo.
Listen,
yeah.
You're gonna go find
links in the
yourself.
description, man. You can sign up on the website or in the app. Y'all know what to do. DrumTrax Premium or DrumTrax Stream, and I look forward to seeing y'all inside of the website /app. Till next time, family.
Holla.
Peace. Fam, it's your boy Damani. I hope you enjoyed the video that you just watched, and I hope you liked the video. I hope you left a comment, and I wanted to invite you into DrumTrax Premium. We literally have over 350 drum lessons, over 300 by now, drumless tracks, a community in the private Facebook group of drummers that we go live with and do live drum coaching every single week. We want to help you find your voice and explore your creativity on the drums. We can do that with DrumTrax Premium. It's only 99 cents to sign up, so you can find the links in the description of this video, and if you're looking for more content, you can click one of the videos that are showing up on the screen right now and check them out. All right, fam? I look forward to seeing you in more videos, and I look forward to seeing you in DrumTrax Premium. All right, fam. Peace.